Hello, this is the third of a planned series of 5 videos that are covering the topic of complex numbers. In this video, we're going to be talking about simplifying the square root of minus n. No new terminology in this video, but the key in this video is what we discussed before, that square root of a times b equals the square root of a times the square root of b. So that means if you can find a factor for the number n that is under the square root, it's equal to the square roots of each factor multiplied together. And we already know that any number minus n can be written as these two factors, positive n plus times minus 1. Positive numbers have a square root. So I'm going to work some problems now to show you how this plays out. The first one is this one, minus 3, the square root of minus 3 times the square root of 4. The square root of minus 3 is equal to the square root of 3 times minus 1. And we're going to multiply that by the square root of 4. The square root of 3 times minus 1 is equal to the square root of 3 times the square root of minus 1 by our key. And the square root of 4 is 2. There's nothing more to do with square root of 3. There is something to do with the square root of minus 1. That's equal to I. And there's nothing more to do with 2. So the answer to this problem is 2i square root of 3. And there's an imaginary component. The second problem that I would like to work is 3 square roots of minus 6 times the square root of minus 3. In a similar fashion, we're going to treat each term. 3. The square root of minus 6 is the square root of 6 times minus 1. And the square root of minus 3 is the square root of 3 times minus 1. So we bring the 3 down. There's nothing more to do with that. We break these apart. The square root of 6 times the square root of minus 1. And then we're ready to do this one. The square root of 3 times the square root of minus 1. We still have the 3 times the square root of 6. The square root of minus 1 is I. The square root of 3 is 3. And we have another I here. So we end up as 3 I squared square root of 6 times the square root of 3. Now you have reached a solution, but you're not at the most simplified version of that solution. And I'm a little sorry I put it there, but I know I'm running out of space. So if we remember our chart from the previous video, I is squared, I is equal to I, and I squared is equal to minus 1. So we can further break this down, 3 times minus 1, and we can use our key in reverse to get the square root of 18. And I'm doing that for a reason. I'm doing that because 6 and 3 are not the only factors of 18. 18 can also be 2 times 9, and 9 is a perfect square. So here's what we can do with that. We have minus 3 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 9. And the square root of 9 is 3, so we have minus 3 times the square root of 2. And the final answer here is minus 9 times the square root of 2. No imaginary part, because we had I squared in there. Whenever you have an even exponent, your imaginary factor is going to fall away. But we have now seen that this complicated expression in the final analysis equals this simplified one.